also reminded that
The quirky site to your right is Clarke Quay, named after Sir Andrew Clarke, second governor to Singapore. From the late 19th century, Clarke Quay was the bustling center of commerce for Singapore. Hundreds of tongkangs or riverboats jostled bow and stern for a place to dock and unload their cargoes, human or otherwise, from the great ships anchored at the harbor. Tons of goods and produce were stored at the godowns or warehouses by the river, which are those buildings you see along the river bank. One of the buildings here was Whampoa's Ice House, which belonged to Hu Ah-kay, a prominent businessman from Whampoa, China. Way before refrigerators existed, he noticed a demand for ice in our hot tropical weather and had blocks of ice hauled from frozen lakes in America all the way here to Singapore. Unfortunately, his ice venture failed because expenses were simply too high. But much respect to the imaginative Mr. Hu for his daring attempt to keep Singaporeans cool. Today, Singaporeans keep cool by sipping drinks al fresco by the river. As you can see, Clarke Quay has been transformed into a different but no less bustling port of call. Everyone flocks here for food, fun, and riverside festivals. You may notice another bridge here. This one's called Reed Bridge, and it would seem yet another symbol of bringing people together. From the 1940s to the 1960s, this bridge was a popular place for storytellers to gather and jiangku, or shuoshu, which means talking about the past or talking about books. Street hawkers, warehouse laborers, and others from the largely Teochew Chinese community would gather here nightly to be entertained. The storyteller would start by talking about the day's news, then continue with riveting classic tales from ancient China. Each episode would last the duration of a burning joss stick, and the audience would pay just 1 cent in the 1940s and just 5 cents in the 1960s. Chinese wayang, or opera, was another popular form of entertainment back then, and there were 2 Teochew opera theaters here. In the 1950s, admission to watch an entire performance was just 50 cents, but the common practice was to only pay 5 or 10 cents just to catch the last 10 minutes, which was the most exciting part of the show. Some might say this opportunistic spirit of frugalness endures amongst the most cunning of Singaporean businessmen till today. During festivals and religious events, the opera performances would be staged outdoors for all to enjoy free of charge. The area to your right used to be the site of Riverside Village, a plague-infested squatters' colony which housed the seedy underbelly of opium dens, brothels, and secret societies. Addicts, ladies of the night, and gangsters jostled for space in this once dangerous, mysterious place. But today, the building Riverside Point sits on the historical foundations of that notorious village. No longer dangerous and seedy, but a delightful waterfront dining oasis that boasts its very own microbrewery. Perhaps you'd like to return by foot to explore all these fun possibilities. Did you know that the paths along the Singapore River make up one continuous looping promenade that connects everything you see along the riverbanks? Take a leisurely stroll and soak in the atmosphere along the 6-kilometer promenade that flanks both sides of the river. As you take in the sights and sounds, you'll be comfortably shaded by lush greenery and definitely tempted by the many shops and cafes along the way. Look across the river and up to your left. See the lush green hill and the large tower overlooking Clarke Quay and the river? That is Fort Canning Hill, where Raffles built his own bungalow, Singapore's first government house. He also planted a spice garden, Singapore's first experimental botanic garden, to cultivate commercially imported spices. The hill was later used by the British as an arms store, barracks and hospital, which probably led to its final name, Fort Canning. But way before the British arrived on our shores, Fort Canning was the place where ancient Malayan royalty once lived and were laid to rest. It was considered so sacred that it was known as Forbidden Hill. Forbidden because commoners were not allowed to visit. Of course, all that has changed, and now you're most welcome to visit Fort Canning to see the old British underground bunkers, and if you're really brave-hearted, explore the ancient gravestones that still remain on its shady slopes. Now here's a building that just begs for attention. See the one adorned with colorful windows on your left? Home to the Ministry of Information, Communications and the Arts, its multi-hued facade not only reflects Singapore's multicultural heritage, but also hints at the building's equally colorful past. Can you believe that this rainbow-splashed complex used to be the old Hill Street Police Station and was once considered a skyscraper? But that was before World War II. In fact, the old Hill Street Police Station served as Singapore's earliest secure jail. And during World War II, it's even believed to have been a torture chamber. With such a vivid history, it's certainly no wonder the building was named a national monument in 1998. On your right is Boat Quay and its stretch of colorful, quaint shop houses. It was completed in 1842 and is Singapore's very first quay. At its peak in the 1860s, Boat Quay handled 3/4 of Singapore's total shipping business. The sheltered riverbanks made excellent loading and unloading places. Back then, the whole river was chock-a-block with thousands of boats transporting a whole myriad of goods to be traded by the merchants who had set up shop in that row of buildings on the bank. Some of those goods included seafood, spices, and rubber. The precious cargo was shouldered across gangplanks by immigrant laborers known as coolies, whose blood, sweat, and tears formed the very backbone of our nation's rise to prosperity. Wonder why all the shophouses are concentrated on just one embankment of Boat Quay? Well, legend has it that the Chinese immigrants chose to set up home only on the south bank of the river. You'll notice how the riverbank curves just like the belly of a calf. In Chinese culture, this majestic fish is an auspicious symbol of good fortune and a great place to store wealth. These first immigrants believed that this part of the Singapore River was where prosperity and wealth could be found. That's also why many banks and businesses started up here and eventually developed this area into our current central business district. Where once boats lined the water's edge, today the banks of Boat Quay are lined with shophouses turned into restaurants and pubs. The facades of the Boat Quay shophouses have been retained, and their unique architectural styles give the district a distinct flavor. Notice how the shophouses are of varying heights? Long ago, this signaled the owner's wealth. In other words, the higher the building, the wealthier the owner. Perhaps these traditional beliefs have extended till today. Just take a look at the tall skyscrapers of Singapore's financial district towering over the Boat Quay shophouses. This is the perfect place for snapping pictures, so enjoy the 360-degree views and drink in Boat Quay's unique blend of traditional Asian values set against a modern and progressive backdrop. See how the shophouses form a charming contrast of Singapore's developing years against the skyline of a new Singapore. This truly is a uniquely Singapore sight. By the way, are you feeling hungry? Hawkers and their pushcarts used to line the riverbanks, selling local dishes that were cheap and delicious. A bowl of Teochew porridge cost only 10 cents. Better yet, side dishes were free of charge. Every day, the people who worked and lived at the river would eat at these pushcarts, sitting on little stools along the river banks. Perhaps that was how al fresco dining got its start in Singapore. Directly ahead is Kavanagh Bridge. Completed in 1869 and named after Colonel Sir William Orford Kavanagh, Singapore's last governor, it's Singapore's only suspension bridge to have retained its intricate original form. It was manufactured in Scotland, then shipped to Singapore later to be assembled. Unfortunately, the bridge was built too low, and boats had to wait for low tide before they could pass. So look out and don't forget to duck as we cruise under the bridge. Just kidding. Coming up on the other side of Kavanagh Bridge, you'll see a group of little boys jumping into the river. Don't worry about jumping in to save them. They're actually incredibly lifelike bronze sculptures showing a scene from the river's past, where children would stand and wave cheekily from their houses. Very often, they would take off all their clothes and jump in for a cool afternoon swim. Standing tall and majestic is the exclusive Fullerton Hotel, which blends the elegance of old-world charm with every modern convenience. Built in 1928, lots of paper pushing went on behind the hotel's splendid columns before its glamorous makeover. Its facade is a masterpiece of neoclassical grandeur, which belies its much stuffier original occupants, the Chamber of Commerce offices and the General Post Office, from which mail was transported along the Singapore River to and from ships. Since the 1950s, this was also the site of many political campaign rallies, but even longer before that, it was occupied by Fort Fullerton, built to defend the town at the mouth of the Singapore River. promontory to your right used to be home to the Merlion, Singapore's half-lion, half-fish icon. The Merlion stood guard here at the river mouth for 30 years before it was hauled by barge to its new home in the bay in 2002. As we make our way out into Marina Bay, you'll be able to see the Merlion for yourself and hear all about its story.
I think there's going to be about a 30 seconds. You want to swap so you can take it?
As promised, up next is Merlion Park, home of the original Merlion statue. To understand our unique national emblem with the lion head and fish body resting on a crest of waves, here's a quick history lesson. Singapore was originally known as the ancient city of Temasek, which means sea town in Javanese. But according to legend recorded in the Prince Sang Nila Utama renamed it Singapura, meaning lion city in Sanskrit, after he spotted a lion on its shores. The lion's head represents the lion spotted by the legendary Sang Nila Utama, while its fishtail symbolizes Temasek and Singapore's humble beginnings as a fishing village. Measuring 8.6 meters high and weighing 70 tons, the Merlion sits on reclaimed land looking out to sea. She attracts millions of visitors a year who make the trip to Merlion Park to photograph this world-famous icon at her new home right here in scenic Marina Bay. Take a peek behind the Merlion and you'll see a baby Merlion. Believe it or not, it's scaled from made from pieces of porcelain repurposed from screws, gold, and plates. Next to the Merlion and her cub is a luxurious lifestyle dining and waterfront hotel house known as the Fullerton Heritage that blends exciting futuristic projects with the older colonial landscape of Singapore.
我今也不太有理，看你发给你妈妈。我有个。
site is Clifford Pier, which was built in 1933 as a landing point for immigrants hoping for a new future in a new land. It was also once known as Red Lamp Pier because legend has it that a red oil lamp used to hang from the pier as a comforting guide to weary seafarers. Mindful of its rich historical past as a bustling trading post and gathering place for food lovers and entertainers, Clifford Pier has been carefully conserved and now serves as the lobby of the Fullerton Bay Hotel. And beside it is Customs House, a charming conservation building from the late 1960s, which began as the Customs Harbour Branch building, one of Singapore's earliest modern-style public buildings. As Singapore's shipping and trade boomed, it became the home of the Singapore Customs Police, tasked with watching over one of the world's busiest harbours. Further up, you'll see the magnificent Marina Bay Financial Centre, which sits on prime waterfront real estate at the heart of Singapore's new downtown and is an expansion of the central business district. Arguably the crown jewel of Marina Bay, this purpose-built financial centre combines the best in form and function, blending office towers, luxury apartments, and retail space, making it one of the hottest places to live, play, and work, as befitting Singapore's position as a global financial, residential, and entertainment hub. It's also part of the 3.5-kilometre Marina Bay waterfront promenade, which has become a popular scenic footpath, especially since this walkway boasts several unique design features. You can look forward to an uninterrupted experiential walk or jog around the bay. Do find time to explore the promenade, which links the landmarks of this beautiful bay area, including Marina Reservoir, Marina Barrage, and Gardens by the Bay. Also located along this fascinating waterfront walk is the Marina Bay City Gallery, which showcases the story of Singapore's urban transformation and the development of Marina Bay. Don't miss its touch-activated exhibits and innovative city model, offering a bird's-eye view of key landmarks in Marina Bay, which will help you navigate the Bay Area. As we make our way back upriver, you may be curious about the type of vessel we're cruising in. Traditionally called bumboats or lighters, these barges were used to transport cargo from ships anchored offshore near the mouth of our Singapore River to the warehouses along the river as early as 150 years ago. In 17th century Europe, they were first used as scavenger or dirt boats to carry rubbish. But some scholars have also agreed that the word bumboat means exactly as it sounds, a ship's bottom or a smaller boat pandering to larger ships. In Singapore, though, bumboats are also called tonggangs, from the Malay name given to the timber used to build them and used for transport between islands. Bumboats are also referred to by the Chinese as tuakos. These boats proudly originated in Singapore with hulls developed by the local Chinese. Hokkien tuakos are the most colorful, with both heads painted bright red, green, and white, while Teochew tuakos were painted a solid red. Now, if you're thinking that the bumboats look like they have eyes painted on them, you're not wrong. According to Chinese legend, these boats were designed by a crafty Chinese emperor who was not in favor of foreigners interfering with his expeditions. So he had eyes painted on his boats to ward off evil and to symbolize good luck. It's also believed that the eyes enable bumboats to see and guide passengers on board safely to their destination. So whether you believe in legend or superstition, we can all agree that these colorful, distinctive boats are certainly eye-catching. Did you know that bumboats all but disappeared from the Singapore River during a massive cleanup of our waterways in the early 80s? However, they made a triumphant return to the Singapore River and were given a new lease of life as pleasure craft by Singapore River Cruises. From a humble fleet of just 4 bumboats, that number has grown steadily to preserve our river's charming heritage. In 2006, Singapore River Cruises championed the environmentally friendly cause by creating the world's first electric bumboat. In fact, this very boat we're cruising in is part of our electric bumboat fleet. As we cruise round Marina Bay and begin making our way back down the Singapore River, have a look to your right at a Singapore landmark that really needs no introduction. It's the iconic Marina Bay Sands Integrated Resort, featuring a casino, hotels and convention center, world-class entertainment and retail shops, all housed within award-winning architecture that resembles a ship atop 3 towers. Notice also the palm-shaped Arts and Sciences Museum and the unique Helix Bridge. This 280-meter engineering marvel has been modeled after the structure of DNA and was inspired by the Asian concept of yin and yang, built to bring wealth, happiness and prosperity to Marina Bay. This bridge will also link you to another awe-inspiring attraction, the Gardens by the Bay. Spanning 101 hectares, this award-winning super park is home to over 250,000 rare plants from all over the world. Enjoy the lush outdoor gardens, huge climate-controlled dome conservatories, and the towering futuristic super trees, which you can even see from this distance. They're essentially vertical gardens, measuring up to 16 stories high and linked by suspended walkways with stunning views of the entire park. Living up to their name, the super trees also collect rainwater, generate solar power, and are venting ducts for the park's conservatories, which encapsulate the cloud forest and flower dome. Do you notice that the water here is very calm? This is due to the Marina Barrage, which is a dam built across the 350-meter wide Marina Channel. It keeps out the seawater to create Singapore's first reservoir in the city, a vital source of fresh water and flood control. The Marina Reservoir is Singapore's 15th reservoir. It has the largest and most urbanized catchment area at 10,000 hectares, or 1/6 the size of Singapore. Just imagine, we're now literally floating in drinking water, perhaps the very same stuff flowing out of your tap. Cruising out into the bay, you couldn't have missed the giant wheel in the sky. That is the Singapore Flyer, a skyscraping observation wheel that measures 165 meters tall, that's 42 stories high, and 150 meters in diameter. That's about the length of 87 Singaporean men lying head to toe. The wheel carries 28 city bus-sized capsules, each allowing up to 28 passengers, which means that at any one time, the Singapore Flyer can transport 784 passengers per revolution, which takes about 32 minutes to complete, rotating at a smooth speed of 24 centimeters per second. This engineering wonder provides breathtaking panoramic views of Singapore and the islands beyond. In fact, from on board, you can see up to 45 kilometers away. That's 3 kilometers more than the entire length of our island city. You'll also notice to your right 2 curious spiky domes unique only to the Esplanade, theaters on the bay. Because of its resemblance to the king of fruits, it's been affectionately nicknamed the Durians. No worries here. Quite unlike its pungent namesake, the Esplanade Theatres on the Bay attracts hordes of hungry culture vultures eager to taste of its many blockbuster productions. As the region's premier performing arts and entertainment center, it boasts superb facilities, showcases world-famous musicals, and features popular homegrown events like the Mosaic Music Festival. And to really top it all off, the Esplanade's breezy rooftop garden offers up more unrivaled views of the city and Bay Area.
Is there like good food and stuff there? It's gonna be great though. Anyway, it's great. Right now, I think this is how full I thought. At the stage. You see the last stage? This is decent. I think, what's his name? The best was like the best one. See, we if you went now,
The green area to your right was once lined with lovely European-style houses that brought to mind the fashionable elegance of London's Mayfair. No wonder the Esplanade was a popular place for European settlers to see and to be seen. Back in the old colonial days, they would emerge from their houses to stroll along the Esplanade every afternoon. Here they would enjoy the sea breeze, exchange gossip, and perhaps even indulge in a little innocent flirtation. As a nod to our colonial history, Queen Elizabeth Walk was opened within the Esplanade Park in 1953 to honor the coronation of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. If you have the time, this path will take you on a pleasant, meandering walk through the park to other interesting national monuments. The bridge straight ahead of us is Anderson Bridge, named after Sir John Anderson, yet another governor of the Straits Settlements. This elegant arch displays an excellent combination of intricate plaster and metalwork, whilst its curved structure provides high resistance to bending force, which comes in really handy since it supports the heavy weight of vehicles zipping back and forth daily. Gorgeous contrast to the skyscrapers that now mark the Singapore skyline, just look to the right and you'll see sitting grandly before us 3 beautifully preserved buildings that commemorate Queen Victoria, the Empress of India. The Victoria Theatre and Victoria Memorial Hall, which features the clock tower, are both historical monuments dedicated to the performance arts. Right next to them is the Empress Place building, which was constructed in 1907 entirely by convict labour. Previously known as the government offices, the Empress Place building is now also a national monument and home to the Asian Civilizations Museum. The Asian Civilizations Museum is a treasure trove of history and culture that will introduce you to the world of Asian traditions. The museum features over 1,600 treasured artifacts in 4 themed geographical zones and includes a Singapore River gallery dedicated to the history and people of our beloved river. Be sure to check it out for an even more intimate picture of the things you've seen and learnt on this river cruise. Tells the story of the Singapore River's development. Meet our nation's pioneers, coolies, merchants, traders, and financiers, all immortalized in beautifully cast bronze. There are many other surprising sculptures that dot the Singapore River promenade, and if you decide to take an exploratory walk, we promise you won't be disappointed. Over on the right bank, you may have noticed a fine fellow cast in blinding white plaster. Englishman Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles, the founder of modern Singapore. The statue marks the spot where Sir Raffles is thought to have first landed in Singapore in 1819. Back then, Singapore was only a sleepy little fishing village, but Raffles saw enormous potential due to a location along the main shipping route between India and China. After signing an agreement with Singapore's then ruler, Sultan Hussein of Johor, Raffles set about establishing a trading post and free port on the island for England's East India Company. He developed a town plan, drawing up residential, administrative and commercial districts along the riverbanks of this budding island city. The large building we're passing on the right was Singapore's first courthouse, after which it became Parliament House up till 1999, when the new Parliament House was developed just next to it. What is that strange disc hovering over Parliament House? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it a UFO? Don't worry, what looked like something out of a sci-fi movie is actually part of the Supreme Court of Singapore. Now this is Elgin Bridge, named after the then Governor-General of India, Lord Elgin. Fittingly, the bridge served as a link between the Indian merchants on the north side of the river and the Chinese community on the south side in the days of our colonial past. We're now approaching Coleman Bridge, named after its Irish architect, George Drumgold Coleman, for his invaluable contributions to Singapore's development. Appointed the first superintendent of public works in Singapore, Coleman brought with him an architectural style known as Palladian, a combination of Greek and Roman styles adapted for our tropical climate. So until next time, from all of us at Singapore River Cruise, we wish you a lovely and unforgettable stay in Singapore.
was thinking, why is he up at 6:40?
42.